Welcome to another exciting episode of Coffee and Radio. I am Heartthrob Rob, and joining me today is a legend, Fred Ottman, a.k.a. Tugboat, a.k.a. Typhoon, a.k.a. Shockmaster. How are you doing today, brother?
That's right, and the B.A.D.D. Big Steel Man coming at you live from California.
Yeah, man, Buena Park. You guys have, got the signing today. Shout out to Wrestling Revolution store, and it's cool to see all the old school fans in here. Still showing you love and admiration, man, because you had a hell of a run. You had a great career in the golden era, man. How are you feeling today?
Well, I'm feeling great, Robert. That's what this is all about. I've told a couple of different guys in there. Without the fans, the wrestlers aren't nothing. You know what I'm saying? You're just another couple of monkeys flipping around, but the bottom line, I've been watching wrestling since I'm 8, 9 years old on a regular basis. That when I grew up in Miami, Florida, watched a lot of great wrestlers, the Briscoes, a skinny Andre the Giant,
wow,
Malenko, the guy that trained me, Boris Malenko, and his two awesome sons, Dean and Joe, and just a virtual cavalcade of wrestlers that came to Florida. And from Japan, from all over the world, from Puerto Rico, from Mexico. I mean, just incredible. And I had a chance, came into the business when there were still territories, and I had the opportunity to wrestle with a lot of those guys that I grew up watching, which was even more crazy, excitable. In my mind, we want, it's like the bomb going off, man. To be able to have that. Dusty Rhodes, who later became my brother-in-law, man. That's, it was just amazing. I mean,
you've had such a long and illustrious career like that where, these dips and turns that are so amazing. And it seems like you were a lifelong wrestling fan. So, and you were trained by Boris Malenko. How did you get into the business like that? How did you, what was it like coming up under Malenko?
Well, I was coming in, when I came into the business, like I said, I grew up in Miami, Florida. The gym I trained at when I was in high school, a lot of the wrestlers, they would come there while they were down there. It was located in Coral Gables, and it was a nice old school type gym, and just a lot of craziness there. There was other members that arrested other members in the gym, and that real old school, old hardcore gym. And there was a couple of guys, the Fabulous Kangaroos, that came in there on a regular basis, and they see me. I power lifted a little bit and everything, even at a young age, and they were like, have you ever thought about wrestling and that stuff? I wrestled a little bit in high school, did threw shot put and discus and track, and played football, and also marched in the marching band, man. How about that deal? Go inside and I'll take a march for you when I come out. But bottom line is, they kept asking me. I said, I don't know about it, and about they're telling me it's good, you can make good money and the whole 9 yards, but took me a while. Malenko had a school that they told me about up in Fort Lauderdale that he came to on the weekends. He was living in Tampa, and he. So I went up there one day. He told me where it was at. I went up, took him to audit it, and go see what it's all about. The training facility and everything. Went up there. He had a lot of great young talent that was there, and he was there, and he was such an awesome guy. Boris was like a second dad to me. I mean, to all the guys that come up, we're all the biggest part of us are still real close that trained together and came into the business together. And he sent me in my first territory, which was Texas, San Antonio, and it was on like Donkey Kong after that. You know what I'm saying? And I eventually moved up to Tampa so I could train 5-6 days a week. In an old mattress factory, wood factory, covered, the outside was covered with tar paper on the outside. That's where they would build mattresses. In the back room of this factory, there was 1,000,000 degrees, and there was he had a guy that was with him, Carl von Stroheim. There was the von Stroheims, there was 2 of them, and he'd sit on the chair, and Malenko would get upset because he'd be over there drinking. He'd have a case of beer down there, iced down. He's drinking beer while we were up there sweating our butts off and, doing the deal on that. But he was a cool guy too. But Malenko was just great. Like I said, he was like a second dad, and his best friend was one of the greatest wrestlers from Germany. He was an ex-Olympic wrestler and that stuff. Carl Gotch.
Oh wow!
And that's the guy that took wrestling to Japan. He's like a god there.
Yeah.
And he gave me my first wrestling name, the Mighty Siegfried, because when he found out that my grandfather was from Austria, my grandmother was from Budapest. That's my dad's parents. And she sounded like the Kabor sisters, you know. Hello, darling. Hello, darling. I'm like, oh my God, man, this is my grandmother. And yeah, I mean, he goes, Siegfried was he was an old-time strong man, you know. And they took me out. Malenko took me out to his house. It was in North Tampa, out on a lake, and one weekend, and I had gone to the gym. And my mom, she's from the country, and she made me a big old breakfast with half a dozen eggs, and biscuits, and gravy, and all that bacon, and all sausage, and all that stuff. And you know, and I went to the gym for a couple hours and wanted to train. I wanted to look good for this guy, and so my dad drives me to Tampa. We hook up with Malenko. Malenko takes me out there. First thing the guy does is take me in his garage, and he has us do it. What the old-time wrestlers used to do, bring a deck of cards with them. And the suits were either they were red or black, okay? And you would either, one color you would do push-ups, the other color you would do squats, Hindu squats. And you throw them down, and there's no stopping. You go from one thing to the other thing to the other thing. It could be the another thing, like that. By the time you're finished, it's like around 500 or 600 of each. You know, so I already puked my breakfast out on his front lawn, you know, and then he's got all these old school, I mean very old school training stuff. He had what they call the iron bow, and it's like 80 pounds of weights on a chain, and you got the one side is a bow out of steel, and that's how back in, I mean, Christ days, the guys that used to shoot arrows on horseback used to use this to strengthen their muscles so they could ride down there and shoot bow and arrow and be accurate and have the strength, you know, to do so, you know, when they're fighting in battle and shit. So at that, the old-fashioned Indian clubs that they used back in the, you know, early 1900s, 20s, 30s, yeah. He had what is called a hammer, where it's a single hammer, and I've seen more video on Instagram over the last year showing guys training with, and girls training with a hammer. It's on a big round ball like a shot put on the end of a stick, and there are different weights. And you swing this way, and then you go back and you swing this way overhead. Yeah, and it strengthens all your upper back, shoulders, arms, everything. And everything had a purpose. And he even had one of the old school wrestling dummies, like they use them in MMA now, where they're taking they weigh about as much as a guy, 150 pounds or whatever, and you practice, you know, doing throws and stuff with them and everything. So it was pretty cool, you know. Other than me throwing up all over the place and him blowing me up, you know, he's like, so tell me, Fred, you know, how many times a day do you eat? I don't know, 4 or 5 times a day. How many times do you crap? You go, maybe 1 or 2. He says, switch them.
Oh my
God. No, you're telling me to diet, right?
Yeah.
In a very great way. Yeah. But he was awesome, man. I mean, you know, really good guy and just a legend among legends.
Oh yeah. And I mean, pretty quickly, I mean, what a hell of a training regiment, you know, to get started.
Oh yeah.
With that. But pretty quickly, like you said, you go to Championship Wrestling from
Florida, yeah.
Right? So, and you're managed by DDP for a little bit.
DDP and Sir Oliver Humperdinck.
Yeah, how
together.
Cool is that, right? And then, I mean, you beat Dusty Rhodes for the NWA Florida Heavyweight Championship.
Oh yeah.
What was that moment like for you? I mean,
unbelievable.
Listening or watching Dusty, and then to get the championship.
Oh yeah.
What was that feeling like?
Oh man, it was incredible. Dusty was awesome anyway. Probably one of the best talkers in the business, and he was a ring general and a booker for many, many, many territories. Mm-hmm. You know, and just phenomenal. I mean, he was my oldest son's that works for WWE. That was his godfather. Him and his wife is godmother to my oldest boy, Berkeley. And then they, he was just a funny son of a gun. And I had no idea that his wife was sister to my first wife. And so that was a pretty bizarre deal.
That's crazy.
She worked in the office there in Florida. And that was like one of the last things that I found out. And it's just craziness all the way around. But to have opportunity like that, like I said, he's one of the matches that used to be Miami Beach Convention Center down in Coconut Grove. At the other building was down there, the Denver Key Auditorium, with Championship Wrestling from Florida. I mean, Gordon Soley was the announcer, and one of the best announcers in the business for his style. He's applying pressure to the thoracic vertebrae in the back, and that's not a souffle, it's a suplex, and he was cool. Oh yeah, all that. He worked also there in Atlanta, and WCW, NWA, the whole 9 yards. I mean, and just a great guy. Matter of fact, my first tour overseas was after we had a big, huge show at the fairgrounds in Tampa. I wrestled Dusty there. Terry Funk came in. Bam Bam was there. All that, and a guy named Otto Vance, who was a promoter and champion wrestler from Austria, Austria and Germany both. He came over and he was scouting talent, and he seen me and then called the office, and they said he wants to bring you over for 10 days. You're going to wrestle him in those 10 days. You'll wrestle him for the championship. And over there, they wrestle each town 30 to 40 days every night of the week and sell out the building.
God damn.
It's called Catch, and they wrestle rounds like in boxing.
Yeah.
Where they bang, you go to neutral corners
you can get
and rest in
during
between.
The match, right?
Oh man, unbelievable. And Otto, if you ever see any pictures of him, he was a big guy, and what was really funny is the press over there were intrigued with me because, like all the other guys, were hanging out in the bar, and over there you get beer. I mean, you're in the land of beer. And you order your beer, it either comes 1 liter or 2 liter glasses. Okay, yeah, and their beer a lot more potent than the beer over here in the States.
Oh, yeah.
Now the craft breweries give you a little extra ethyl in the in the cup, but before it was that 3-2 beer and shit, 4 beer. But they're over there, and I'm ordering cranberry juice and orange juice at the bar, and his son had took me around. I got to see all kind of stuff there, and culturally, and he's like, "You're the talk of the papers and the news," because they did a public weigh-in, and all the TV and the news were there and that. And
it's a shoot.
Oh, it's a shoot, man. I'm like, and so we go, and he goes, they know you're taking this serious because you're not drinking no alcohol. I go, what? He goes, yeah, that's all. It's all in the papers and on the news. They're talking about he's taking Otto very, very serious. He's coming after him, and I was training in the gym there. All the gyms were on the second floor in the buildings. You had to walk up steps to get to the gym. Oh my God, old school weights and stuff. But it was fun. It was nice. It was, you're in the middle of the mountains where it was cool, and I said it was my first time overseas. I was like, wow. I landed and went to Berlin, and then we flew in on another airline to go into Graz, and that's where Schwarzenegger's from. He's a big Otto Vance fan. And we went in. I come in the airport, and I get off the plane. You got to walk down off the plane into the tarmac because it's a little airport. I walk through the doors to go in there, and there's guys with machine guns walking around the balcony. I'm like, what's going on here, man? It was like you were in a war zone, but that's just, just the way security was there. They ain't like going through TSA here, guys. They had the, automatic weapons strapped to their, neck. But it was cool. Everybody was so wonderful, and it was such a clean place, and it's just amazing, And see, that's one of the perks. I've been to like 40-something countries, and, and like 48 out of the 50 states. There's a couple of them you know, like Wyoming, and another one that we never went to and wrestled, but it was just amazing, you know, and I met so many different people from different cultures, different religions, and learned so much that I wish a lot of times we minimal for almost 30 years was 300 days a year, you know, and that includes traveling. I talked to Bill Eadie one time before I was there. Bill had worked 365 days straight, had a day off, and then went right back on the road. Gosh. You know, and you got to figure that's your, you know, we used to back then. See, I don't know how things are now, you know, but back then you go to TV and they give you a stack of tickets, like about like that thick, and before anybody had cell phones and that, you're going to the, you know, TV days were long days. You worked 2 or 3 days of TV every week, and every night that you worked on TV was 3 or 4 hours.
Wow.
Okay, you know, because you had dark matches that you had to do. You were doing interviews. You were doing photo shoots. You had to be to the building by 12, and then it was, you know, all the people there, the crews and everything, were putting you where you needed to be. And so the first thing you got was they put you over to where your tickets are for the next tour. They give you your schedule because they were running 2-3 towns a night, you know, and you know, you get your stuff and then tickets, and then you're sitting by the payphone. You try to find the payphones in the building, and you were on the payphone making hotel reservations, rental car reservations, all that stuff to get ready for your next tour. Yeah, and we were, you know, you'd go home for 2 or 3 days if you were lucky, and then back on the road, and you know, you spend a little bit of time, you know, decompressing, you know, and spending time with the wife, and if you got kids, with your kids, you know, but it was back on the road. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. And of course you're talking